A key part of President Trump's trade deal with China this past week reopened the market for American soybeans. If you think soybean sales don't mean a lot to you, they actually impact national food prices, export revenues, and taxpayer-funded agricultural subsidies, affecting economic stability and consumer costs for all of us. A lot of soybean farmers have spent this past growing season working on hope and a little faith in President Trump. Mikenzie Frost reports from Indiana.
The sight of a dust cloud in a field on a bright, sunny day usually means one thing. It's harvest season. This 2,200-acre plot near Rensselaer, Indiana, is where Kendall Culp and his family have been working the land for more than 50 years.
You said soybean, corn, and wheat. What's it going to look like for you? You're in the middle of harvesting right now. How are the prices going to be?
So the prices are not good for the grains. We're very diversified. As a family operation, we try to stay diversified. So if one commodity is struggling, hopefully another one brings that up from a financial standpoint. But grain prices, of course, are subpar. There's a lot of issues, I think, that are addressing that or that are causing that low prices to be. So it's definitely a below break-even year as far as for corn and soybeans.
China was the largest export market for American soy, typically buying some 60% of U.S. soybean exports. But until a deal with China just announced, that had ground to a halt. China was boycotting U.S. soybeans in retaliation for President Trump's tariffs. China imported 0 U.S. soybeans in September.
Are the tariffs part of that conversation, given the fact that China is no longer part of the conversation when it comes to buying soybeans in the United States?
Obviously, we need China to be part of our market. What we found is we really had too much reliance on one country for our soybean exports, and that was China. About a third of the soybeans that are raised in this country pre-tariffs went to China. I mean, that's an amazing number to think, a third. Over half of what we export went to China.
Culp is also a Republican state representative and the vice president of the Indiana Farm Bureau. He says the summer's trade war with China was like deja vu all over again.
Now, I would say we had this during the first Trump administration as well. The president had our backs.
In Trump's first term, China's farm purchases dropped from $19.5 billion to $9 billion. The Department of Agriculture responded with direct payments for qualified American farmers, spending $11.5 billion in 2017 and more than $32 billion by 2020.
Do you hear from farmers that they blame the Trump administration? Are they upset with the policies that they're seeing from Washington?
Surprisingly, no. About 70% of rural Indiana voted for President Trump for re-election. They're sympathetic with the fact that China is kind of the bully in the world, and we're not going to stand for that. And most countries can't stand up to China. And so I think farmers in general are going to say, we want to do our part. We want to help as well. If we're going to have some short-term pain for long-term gain, we're willing to do that, but we also have to stay in business. And I think the White House understands that.
That sentiment is felt across county lines.
This is my grain handling facility,
where Alan Buchanan has been farming this land near Fowler, Indiana since 1997.
I supported this administration, and I feel like it will sort itself out.
The deal with China is even more welcome because although President Trump promised a fall bailout of up to $10 billion, that relief has been held up by the government shutdown.
Is it up to the federal government to help farmers who are impacted by the tariff policies by utilizing that money?
I don't think it's necessarily their responsibility, but I think it's very wise to do so. It comes back to food supply and really national security. It's always been that way, is whenever farmers are in a tough spot, you tend to look to the government for answers.
How long can the short-term pain last?
We had hoped that we would see some kind of agreement with China before harvest. Yeah. That hasn't happened.
And then it did.
It was an outstanding group of decisions. We're in agreement on so many elements, large amounts, tremendous amounts of the soybeans and other farm products are going to be purchased immediately.
China has agreed to purchase 25 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans annually as part of the new agreement, with almost half of that coming between now and January. That will open the China market up again, but Indiana farmers are planning forward. They've learned to diversify crops. Now they're going to diversify markets.
We're trying to really focus on the markets that are open for us. Indiana recently signed a letter of intent with Taiwan to purchase a huge sum of soybeans in the next 4 years, $3.5 to $4 billion worth of soybeans, which is going to be huge for Indiana farmers.
Farmers have always survived on hard work, along with hope and more than a few prayers. Geopolitics have become part of the change, while the old challenges remain the same.
There's a lot of places around the state and even the Midwest where they weren't as fortunate with summer rains and maybe spring rains where they weren't able to plant as timely as we were. Production costs have risen dramatically. And with crop prices, you know, kind of in the tank, there's a lot of concern going into 2026.
You went to Indiana before President Trump announced the new
Yes.
deal with China. Do you know what these farmers are thinking about this deal?
So we contacted them after the news of this deal on Thursday, and Alan Buchanan called this a game changer for profitability. Kendall Culp said that it is welcome news on top of a year that had a great harvest. And we're seeing the market put dollars behind this new deal and the news of it, right? Soybeans hit their highest price in over a year.
Hope that works out. Sounds good. Thanks, Mikenzie.